Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. Today is Friday, May 1st. I'm Miles here with Ben, and Ben, oh my goodness, another crazy night of playoff basketball, but this one may have been the craziest one yet. I am in disbelief at what has happened here tonight.
Yeah, doing well being back home, but well, the NBA once again never looks to try to be predictable. It's gotta have some surprises.
Yeah, we keep saying it. Just when you think you have something figured out, oh boy, it flips around very quickly day by day. We'll get into all of that here today. So stay tuned. As always, you can always check the description down below. Skip ahead to the game that you want to hear us talk about. But since today is a Friday, we are going to do some Poeltl and see how we do here today. And we thought it would be fitting today with Minnesota closing out Denver in shocking fashion to go with Jaden McDaniels as our Poeltl player because he was unbelievable in this series and in Game 6. So let's see what he gets us. Western Conference, probably guard slash forward, 6'8" or 6'9". That is older, most likely in his prime or just past his prime, or an old guy that's got a higher jersey number.
Hmm.
Certainly could be a lot of players. That's in the Western
Yeah.
Conference, not in the Northwest Division. Um, So not someone that is on the Denver Nuggets either in this series.
Right, yeah, Southwest or Pacific.
Yeah. Um.
It shouldn't take too long, hopefully, to get this.
Yeah. I mean, first guy that comes to my mind, just thinking. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of guys that could fit this, but Jimmy Butler could fit this. Oh no, he can't. He can't. He used to play for Minnesota, so he would not fit.
Yeah,
Almost
true.
forgot about that. Let's see. You got like I'm just trying to think of old guard slash forward guys. You got like a DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, that's true.
You got DeMar, you got like Clay Thompson.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Ben? Any guys that you think we could go with?
Yeah, I mean, trying to see if any guys you haven't thought of pops in my mind, but can't really think of any new players here. But Clay and DeMar sound like good options. Uh,
Who do you I feel like DeMar is both of them are like the same kind of archetype size wise.
yeah,
Um, so who do you want to go with, DeMar or Clay? Which 2010s shooting guard do we
I
want to
don't
go
know.
with?
DeMar played on some more teams.
Sure. All right, then let's go with DeMar DeRozan. Let's see. Oh man,
Oh,
almost on the money. 37 or
wow.
38 years old. Pacific Division, but not on the Kings, so it's not going to be any old guy on the Kings. What old super old guys are still let's look around. 37, 38 years old in the Pacific Division. Lakers only old guy there is LeBron. Warriors, I mean, no, there's not really a wing player that's super old on that team. Phoenix, Clippers. Is this Nicholas Batum?
Well, yeah, might be.
See, I don't remember. I think he wears the number 33 with the Clippers. Like those are the only like super old guys that are still out there. I think it might be Batum. I'm
I
not
tried
sure.
Batum. I can't think of anyone else.
There we go.
Yeah, nice.
Nick Batum in 3. Let us know how long it took you guys to get the veteran Nicholas Batum. But now let's get into an unbelievable night of playoff basketball with 3 results that nobody, I think, would have expected here going into the night. We could really start with any of these 3 games, Ben, but I think we have to start off with Denver and Minnesota, with the Minnesota Timberwolves eliminating the Denver Nuggets in game 6 last night in Minnesota, despite not having Anthony Edwards, Dante DiVincenzo, and Ayo Dosunmu. They didn't have their 3 best
Mhm.
guards, but it didn't matter. Minnesota put on a defensive clinic once again this series to take down Denver 110-98 and shockingly end the Nuggets season in the first round. Ben, this is, I mean, just unbelievable. We were talking about, once the Wolves got up 3-1 after the winning game 4, how, man, Minnesota's dealing with the injuries to the backcourt. I think that you and I, and probably most people, were thinking, look, 3-1 comebacks don't happen too often, but this is probably one of the more likely scenarios with the Wolves missing
Yeah.
these guys. But Minnesota got it done in game 6 at home, Ben. What are your initial reactions?
Man, just it's crazy. Like, just one win here that Minnesota pulled off with some injured players, and here we are, they're moving on to the second round. And Denver, a team I thought, could compete to go on a far playoff run. Like possibly the Western Conference Finals for them. I can't believe is already eliminated. Like I thought with the injuries, they were gonna play better, and I predicted them to beat Minnesota, but no, they lost. It's just strange. It's like Minnesota just somehow has really turned it up defensively in their home court, and the Nuggets just somehow can't really get much going on the offensive end when they're in Minnesota. So yeah, just surprising, but great on the Timberwolves. They're at least moving on, and they'll play the Spurs, but it's no easy series they got coming up against San Antonio, especially if they're gonna have to start the series without Anthony Edwards and maybe more injuries.
Yeah, no question about it. And we'll spend a lot of time on a future episode previewing the Minnesota San Antonio second round series. That sounds crazy to even say. First of all, Spurs Wolves second round matchup, just because those are
Right.
two teams that, like, of course, the Spurs are a historically great team, all time wise, and Minnesota. These are the best years of their franchise history, with the Spurs kind of being in the lottery on this playoff drought. So this is the first time that they're really good, I feel like, at the same time. Like, I don't know how many times they've met in the playoffs before, but we'll get to that, when we get to that second round preview. As far as this game, I mean, you're just shocked that Denver wasn't able to find a way to get this done in this scenario where, again, Minnesota is missing their 3 best guards. Nikola Jokic, after, a bit of a slow start, ends up playing the entire second half of this game because Minnesota went on a run to close the third quarter. Jokic has 28, 9, and 10 on, good efficiency. Only has, he has 4 turnovers, but he could have worse in this series. They get 27 points from Cam Johnson in this game. Of course, they don't have Aaron Gordon, who's a key piece for their team as well, but you're just so shocked that a Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray team, a team that has won a championship before, couldn't figure out a team led by, in this closeout game, Jaden McDaniels and Terrence Shannon Jr. I mean, it's unfathomable that we're even saying that right now. But I think the guy you got to give the most credit to in this series potentially is Jaden McDaniels, for the fact that earlier in the series he was talking his talk, about how, Denver, they don't have any good defenders. We could just go. The key is to go right back at all of them. And not only did he back it up on the defensive end, clamping up on Jamal Murray once again in this game, but then offensively, he scores 32 points. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Well, someone had to step up with big performances, and sure big that Gina McDaniels, and then now Terrence Shannon Jr. the starting lineup. Terrence Shannon Jr. has a great game with 24 points. No way. So yeah, usually, you don't get those types of performances from like a McDaniels or Terrence Shannon Jr. Man, we've hardly seen anything like that all year from him. I think that was best performance of the year. So get those performances is just huge in lifting Denver. I'm not Denver, lifting Minnesota to win over Denver in this one.
Yeah, it's just a shocking result here on, Denver. They just weren't able to score against this Wolves defense. I mean, down the stretch they had some rough turnovers. They just couldn't get a shot to go. I mean, they only had one basket in the last 8 minutes of this game, in this elimination game, where, for Minnesota, this was it felt like a must win for them. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast. If Minnesota had lost this game at home with their guys out, you would favor Denver at home in a game 7 to take care of the series with all the Wolves injuries. But Minnesota took care of business the way they needed to do it. Um, and again, I mean, it was their defense. It was them dominating on the offensive glass. They had 19 offensive rebounds in this game, 7 of them from Rudy Gobert, 4 of them from Jaden McDaniels. And Minnesota just got the punch that they needed. Another great bounce back game for Rudy Gobert, who was 2 assists shy of a triple double. Rudy Gobert, he was making some phenomenal passes in the short roll, including that one pass to the right corner for Terrence Shannon to hit a 3 at the shot clock buzzer in a crucial moment. Because this was a close game down the stretch, but he was phenomenal. We mentioned Jaden McDaniels, Terrence Shannon stepping up. Naz Reid off the bench had a big game. And Minnesota, they only played 8 players in this game because of the injuries that they had. But this was a game that they needed to have, and they just certainly took it to Denver. And again, it's just shocking that the Nuggets just weren't able to pull it together to find a way to get this one on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Just credit Minnesota. They really showed out at home, but up the home crowd's energy to get it done and to knock out their rival Denver Nuggets from the playoffs for another year.
Yeah, they do it again. Back-to-back years where Minnesota gets the 6th seed in the playoffs and they upset the 3rd seed. They did it to the Lakers in 5 games
Yeah,
last year.
that's impressive.
Yeah, now they do it again here, beating Denver for the 2nd time in 3 years. And this series, although it did go 6 games, I mean, Minnesota pretty much dominated the series for the most part, besides like game 1. And it was their series, it was their series. They won 4 of the, next 5 games. Game 5 was the only one they lost, but just completely dominated. And now, again, they move on to the second round. But now, incredibly, Ben, we're just entering again, today is May 1st, and we're asking the question, what do the Denver Nuggets do next? It's already the off season for them. This is a team that had, coming into the season, had the second best odds to win the title this year behind Oklahoma City, a team that I predicted. This was my Western Conference champion heading into the season, and I think for good reason. Heading into the season, I think most people agreed, and that this was the best team that Denver had built in the Nikola Jokic era because of the role players that they put around Jokic. And it's a first round exit for the first time in 4 years, Ben, and they're in a very tricky position here. I mean, how do you overall gauge the season that they had? Because they did have a lot of injuries, but this was a year where, again, best offense in the league, but brutal defensively. And a key in this series was, how was that going to balance out in this series against a good defensive Wolves team? And it comes in a 6-game series loss.
Yeah, well, I think they had a good season, even with some injuries, which stunk, obviously. But still, I you know expected they could at least be somewhat better on the defensive side. At times, even without like missing Peyton Watson for a lot of games, and then missing Aaron Gordon for games throughout the year, and they didn't have Aaron Gordon in this game against Minnesota. And I mean, they give up a whole ton of points, but it could have maybe have helped having Aaron Gordon on Jaden McDaniels when it could have maybe been really close in this game. So, yeah, the injury luck was sort of tough on them this year, but still, Jokic, as you said, Miles, I thought before the year this was like the best team they had around him. So I was thinking the same way. This team could go far potentially in the playoffs, and you know, we would say they did draw like, a tough first round matchup like Minnesota. My knew, for 6 seed that maybe they could play better than that, like, in the
But I
playoffs.
will say, but although it was a tough matchup, I mean, if we remember going into that final day of the regular season, Denver, I mean, essentially went all out to win that final game to get this matchup. So they wanted this
Mm.
matchup to avoid Oklahoma City in the second round and eventually hope to play the Spurs in round two. But because they draw a tougher first round matchup, they don't even get past that. They don't even get to that point.
Yeah, like I think they played the Rockets or Lakers based on what we've seen for those teams. I think they would have had a much better shot at winning one of those series, and instead, it's the first round loss to your rival Minnesota Timberwolves, which it's gotta hurt for them. And I mean, now it's just back to the drawing board, I guess, for now. What ways could the team improve around Jokic and Murray? I don't know, like, a whole lot they could do. I mean, hope Aaron Gordon, gets back more healthy. I guess hope Peter Watson gets back more healthy, and they're playing next year to be better defensively. But I mean, you might have to move off some guys and maybe acquire someone, but they're in a tough position, and I'm not sure if this was totally the position they were expecting to end in. I think they're expecting, hopefully to possibly go farther than this of how talented they were.
Oh, no question about it. The moves they made in the summer, I mean, they expected to be a finals team this year. They expected to be in that position. And with again, just they're in a very difficult situation because of their salary table, and just the way players perform this season. As far as free agents, Tim Hardaway Jr. was a great, bench option for them, but now he's a free agent. Peyton Watson and Spencer Jones are both restricted free agents. Spencer Jones was a great story throughout the year, and Peyton Watson had a very strong season. This year, of course, he was hampered by injuries, but I know there's definitely a strong chance that Peyton Watson kind of played himself out of the Nuggets price line, to stay with that team throughout the regular season. I mean, during the regular season, Peyton Watson averaged 14 and a half points per game, 41% from 3, 5 rebounds. Like, he was a huge piece for them, especially with all the injuries, but went down, with the hamstring injury, and just was not available during really the back half of the season to really show his worth. But with the performances he had during the regular season, you have to imagine, some team is going to be able to offer him a lot more money than Denver is going to be able to afford. When you look at the players that are under contract, you have Jokic and Murray, who next year are going to make a combined $109 million, when both of them, I'd say Murray, this was his worst playoff series in a while. And I think you could say Jokic, this was his worst playoff series in his career, with how Rudy Gobert just found a way to, you could say Rudy Gobert found a way to guard him pretty well, but Jokic just didn't really have many answers. And I know he had the lingering wrist injury, he had the leg injury from the middle of the season. But regardless, the results are this was his worst playoff series. Aaron Gordon, one of your more valuable players that might have the most trade value on your team, is coming off back-to-back playoff runs where he's injured to the point where he had to hobble on the court, or in this series, he couldn't even play some games. And then Christian Brown is now on a massive contract this year. Next year, his extension kicks in. He begins the first year of a 5-year deal where he's making anywhere between $21 million to $28 million in 2031, when he massively regressed this year on all levels. So because of that, you've got 4 of your 5 starters that are not coming off of their best points, and you add Cam Johnson with that, who had his ups and downs in his first year with Denver. There aren't many avenues to this team getting better, because right now, like, besides if Jokic was somehow available, like, why would you want any of these players right now if you're an opposing team?
Yeah. I would have to agree. It's just, I would have to guess. So somehow most of these guys will be back next year. It'll be sort of like a trying to run a big thing. Hope the team stays healthy, and then, come the playoffs, they learn from this year and they're in better shape next year to try to compete to go on a deep run. But we'll have to see. Things change in the West that makes it even more tricky for them next year. But who knows?
Yeah. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, at this moment, of course, I mean, they just got eliminated less than an hour ago of recording this. But if I had to predict, you would think they would run this team back, because I don't think they have much of a choice. Something to note here is that Nikola Jokic is extension eligible beginning this offseason. He still has, next year and a player option in 2028. But that might be something to watch for here to see what Jokic values. Like, does he value trying to get on a better team, to compete for another championship, or does he value being someone who stays with one team his entire career? Because if that's the case, then you'd expect him to stay in Denver and that team to be competitive for a while here. But if they're not able to get better over the next couple of years, then there might be some significant change to that team, because in a Western Conference that is only going to get better as these young teams like the Spurs, even the Thunder, I really love the Utah Jazz, the Dallas Mavericks with Cooper Flag, even those lottery teams, the Lakers with Luka's surgence, the Rockets as they get better, the Wolves that they just
The
beat.
Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, we love the Portland Trailblazers. Like, there are so many teams that are going to get better because of their youth. And this is a Denver team that is only getting older. Like, next year, Jamal Murray's going to be 30. Aaron Gordon and Jokic are both 31. Or, excuse me, 32. Cam Johnson will be 31. Christian Brown's already going to be 26, and he just had a bad season. There's not a whole lot of ways for this team to get better. So you'd expect to see them run it back next year, and hope for better health, but there's no question they need to find a way to improve on the defensive end if they want a better chance next year, because clearly them having the best offense in the league didn't make a difference when it came down to this series against Minnesota.
No, it didn't.
No, so just incredible. Minnesota advancing past the first round to defeat the Denver Nuggets. We said coming in when predicting this series, which, all of us, picked the Denver Nuggets going into this series. And, it wasn't just, us as well. We have a, group chat outside of here with, 13 people in it that have predicted these series, and all of us went with Denver. I mean, Denver was the overwhelming favorite in what could have been a competitive series, but Denver definitely the favorite. But Minnesota taking out Denver in the first round. We said coming in that it was going to be a shocker. It was going to be crazy that either one of these teams wasn't going to make it past the first round. Just so shocking that it's reality that a Nikola Jokic team with Jamal Murray, those two guys healthy, that they can't get past the first round. First time we've ever seen that for those two guys. So will certainly be an interesting offseason for them, but congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves for advancing to the second round. Moving on to the, another shocking Game 6 result from Atlanta, with Game 6 of the Knicks and the Hawks after New York had won the last two games in pretty convincing fashion here. Atlanta trying to keep their season alive. Well, I mean, if they had actually come to play, they would have had a chance to try and keep their season alive. But the final score, 140-89 New York to advance to the second round, a 51-point victory. They led this game by as many as 61, and they had a 48-point lead at halftime. Ben, this was crazy. Just full transparency. I'm in my final full regular week here of my junior year at college at Ashland University, small college in Ashland, Ohio. I'm in the journalism and digital media program, going to become, a sports broadcaster. Basketball play-by-play in the NBA is, definitely the dream. But this week, today or Thursday evening, was our awards ceremony where all the departments hand out their awards. So, and that, came into this game. So I wasn't able to catch the start of the game. So when the awards are over, I go to check the score because I'm super excited, to see what's going on in this game. And I see that the score is 60-19, 3 minutes into the second quarter. And me, along with all my other friends, are like, what is going on here? So, Ben, what happened from the start here? How did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, the first few minutes of the game I noticed were actually competitive and close. Atlanta led for just a little bit at the beginning, but then New York just started to take over. A few OG Anunoby 3-pointers. OG had a great game from early on in the game, just propelled to go on a huge run where Knicks were once down 11-9, 8 minutes left in the first quarter. Then OG started hitting those freeze men, and they just continued expanding on that lead. They just started dominating. They only gave up 4 points. The Knicks for the last 7 minutes of the first quarter, which was unbelievably impressive somehow by them. And they just kept scoring and scoring and scoring. OG kept scoring, and Brunson was scoring too. Just Atlanta, yeah, they didn't show up as well, and just an unfortunate way for Atlanta to end this season. They were looking like a fun, good young team, but I just couldn't believe the Knicks dominated like that.
Yeah, so the numbers on it for you. With 8:11 to go in the first quarter, Atlanta led the Knicks 11-9. 6:48 mark of the second quarter, it was 62-19 New York, which means that over a 13.5-minute span, New York went on a 53-8 run. That is unheard of. 53-8 run given up by a home team facing elimination. I mean, this is crazy. This is up there with the Phoenix Buns lost to Dallas in 2022 in Game 7, when they were down 30 at halftime. This is a whole nother level. This is up there with the Cavs Heat series last year in Game 4. This chucks all that. This was the largest halftime lead in playoff history. 61-point lead's got to be up there for the biggest lead in playoff history. I mean, I just can't believe that Atlanta, after coming into this series so hot, having a 2-1 lead, they led this series, were very confident, and then New York blitzed them the final 3 games of the series. I mean, they won by 51 in this game. They won by 29 in Game 5, and what they win by 20 or 16 in Game 4. So 16, 29, 51, that's a lot. That is a lot of points to lose by here if you're Atlanta, and certainly the outlook on them is a lot different going forward. But even before we get to that, just what a game here for OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. When you mentioned OG's game, he had 26 in the first half. He only missed 3 shots. I think probably the biggest thing here is Mikal Bridges going for 24 points on 10 of 12 shooting, someone that we've talked about a lot here for talking about how he needed to perform better. My goodness, everyone performed well, but it seemed like he was taking, his shots in this game. He was taking the shots that he was the most comfortable with, high percentage shots in the mid range at the basket and then transition threes.
Yeah, more like the Mikal Bridges they were expecting when they made the trade. Thinking it's there for the Knicks. Much needed performance from Bridges, and you gotta hope Bridges can somehow keep that going against the Celtics or the 76ers in round two. But just the Knicks, they all started on the defensive end. They were just unbelievable there. Like, they blitzed Atlanta really good. They did well at forcing Atlanta just in a lot of tough shots. And yeah, things were looking the best at the start of the series for the Knicks. But when they got down, I was just really impressed with the way they responded to where they just ended the series just really strong, just playing some phenomenal basketball, and they're looking like a team. They could keep this up consistently the way they played then this series to where they could possibly go on a deep run, maybe make the finals even.
Yeah, certainly a testament to their team for being able to get past that test and not overreacting. I think this series, clearly here is one of the biggest reasons why you can never overreact after, a few, couple close losses in a series. Now, the losses they had in games 2 and 3 were bad with how they executed down the stretch, but they learned from that and just completely dominated these next 3 games here. And look, this was a series that I thought, overall was pretty competitive with Atlanta. Again, they had a 2-1 lead, but in the overall grand scheme of things, the stats will probably come out, later over the next few days as the Knicks, enjoy this series victory. But just mathematically, again, I mentioned the point differentials for games 4, 5, and 6, and they had a big win in game 1, and their 2 losses were by 1 point each. So this is probably going to go down as one of the highest point differential, like, margin of victories for a 6-game series that we've ever seen. You just got to give the Knicks a lot
Yeah.
of credit for turning it around. Karl-Anthony Towns, his second triple-double of the series. This has got to be the first time ever that a player had a post-game interview, like an on-court post-game interview, making one field goal. That's because the triple-double and his team won by 51 points. So just big time response there for New York. Definitely, look really good here at the end of this first round. But as we've seen throughout some other teams in this first round, like, you just can never, we've seen the highs and the lows from these teams so far. So time will tell if New York can keep it up. On the Atlanta side of things, Ben, man, like, I'm again, you're just speechless at seeing a team season end like this on their home floor after they were playing so well the second half of the season, take 2 games from New York in this series, and for it to end like this in a completely non-competitive game here. Seemed like the only competitive part of the game was when Dyson Daniels and Mitchell Robinson got, in that scuffle in the first
Yeah.
half. But Ben, this was a crazy season. Started out with Trae Young and Kristaps Porzingis on their team as like their 2 lead guys, along with Jalen Johnson. Trade those guys away to bring in CJ McCollum and Jonathan Kuminga. They get the all-star jump from Jalen Johnson, most improved player season from Nickeil Alexander-Walker, big jump from Onyeka Okongwu. But again, to end it like this, how do you kind of encapsulate their season?
Yeah, it was overall a good season, but here come the playoffs, how this series ended. It was rough for them, and I think it shows them what, they need to look at and proving they're definitely going to work hard to learn from their mistakes from this, because I know they'll want to get back to winning and trying to compete next year. And I think they have a bright future since they're a young team still. They're still growth these young players can make to level up their games even more. Like, Jalen Johnson. We already know he's great. He's proved nicely. And then Nikhil Alexander missed a proved player, but I can see those guys maybe even like getting a bit more better passively with being able to like maybe take over clutch games and hit more tough clutch shots there maybe in the future. And I mean, if we get it off season with Jonathan Kaminga, at least still has some good potential in him. I think. I mean, he hit some good moments earlier in the series against the Knicks when he hit some great games off the bench, and those were big helping Atlanta, get a few wins in this series. And just, I mean, Atlanta, making that trade with New Orleans in the draft last year was just great, just because, I mean, it would be phenomenal, and it would definitely, you know, set the Hawks in a great position if they somehow got lucky and landed a high pick in the draft, which there's a possible chance that it could maybe happen, but it all depends on those ping pong balls. You never know what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Them having that, New Orleans or Milwaukee first round pick is going to be very important. This is going to be a big offseason for their team. Again, them having that great second half of the season, Jalen Johnson making the All-Star jump in the offseason, the questions that they have, I think the big one for them is going to be what do they do with CJ McCollum, as he is an unrestricted free agent. He's going to be one of the top free agents on the market here. And when he got to Atlanta, he was a very big piece for them as a primary offensive scorer, whether it was as a bench player when he first got there, then as a starter. And then we come here in these playoffs and we see his experience come through in the first 3 games of the series. But then the last 3 games, I mean, essentially disappears, Ben, as a brutal last 3 games of the series. So for someone that is going to be entering his age 35 season, the Hawks are going to have to be careful with how much they pay this guy, because, although he has been a very consistent scorer throughout his entire career here, I mean, it's CJ McCollum at age 35. I mean, you can't be expecting him to put this up these games, those sort of seasons, coming up forward here. You have to expect some sort of decline. So you got to be careful about his money. Jonathan Kaminga on a team option for $24 million as a bench player who, similar to McCollum, was great the first few games, brutal the last few. So they're just going to have some big decisions to make, I think, on those 2 guys in particular. And then for their team, it's going to be, a lot of player development. Like you said, Ben, guys getting better, whether it's Jalen Johnson, seeing if he can be better as a number 1 guy. He was okay in his first playoff series, but definitely could be better going forward. But I think Dyson Daniels is the guy that's going to have to improve for them the most, particularly on the offensive end, because we've seen, how valuable he is on the defensive end. And, with everything besides shooting the ball from the perimeter. I mean, he is not guarded out there. And for a guy that's making $25 million each of the next 4 years, he's got to find a way to become a threat from the perimeter in order to, be guarded out there and actually be respected offensively to make this Hawks offense work better.
Yeah, I would agree there on Dyson Daniels. And yeah, exactly. Player development, even though, yeah, I'd say it was a successful year of player development because I didn't expect, Atlanta just be better like how they were without Trey Young this year. But, well, they're still, these, they can prove even more if they want to be, tough team to beat next year, just in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. But overall, the Atlanta Hawks and the Denver Nuggets are both headed to Cancun. But now let's move on to the other game 6 that was last night. with Philadelphia winning their second game in a row here after trailing the Celtics 3-1. They've forced a game 7 with a dominant 106-93 victory here, where they got tremendous performances once again, from their key players. And for the second straight game, great defensive performance on Boston, not allowing them to get up as many threes as they would like, not as many quality shots as they would like. The Celtics once again cold from 3, and for the second straight game, put up less than 100 points and really struggle offensively.
Yeah, just I was really impressed with Philadelphia in this game. It was sort of surprising if Boston could respond good again on the road here, but no, credit Philadelphia. Their defense was fantastic. I love the way they closed out shooters for Boston when they tried taking 3-point shots, and their activity level was great. They were great at just finding ways to get in the passing lane to get nice steals. Their communication seemed well between each other. They just did a great job at getting to their spots at right times on defense. I was impressed with them there a whole lot, and their shot making was, it was all right today. They have one of their best offensive games, but still got good performances from, your big free players on that end, which is helpful enough to help get them some more points than Boston to just lift them over the edge in this one.
Yeah, I think what you said about the Sixers offense, like, you're right. They didn't shoot the ball incredibly well. Like, they shot 44% from the field. They only shot 33% from 3 in this game. But I felt that their buckets that they made in the second half, because they were in that crazy Philadelphia home environment, I thought the buckets they made in the third quarter, especially, and the start of the fourth to blow the game open, were just a lot louder than like Boston's points. Like some of the plays that they made. I mean, the stretch that they had in the third quarter where Embiid got doubled on the block, another great game where he has 8 assists in this game. He's doubled on the block on the left side and behind the back to Kelly Oubre cutting in for a dunk. That gets the crowd on their feet. And then they force, they get a great defensive stop on Boston. Paul George behind the back to VJ Edgecombe for a 2-hand slam. Like, that's what you got to do in a game like this, because those points, although they're just 2 points right at the basket, they feel like they're worth like 4 or 5 points in front of that Philadelphia crowd. You put those 2 plays along with the vintage PG Paul George step backs that we had in this game from 3 and in the mid range, and then the beautiful drives to the basket from Tyrese Maxey, and you've got yourself, a terrific formula to winning a home elimination playoff game.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mads. Just was impressed again with Philadelphia. And yeah, those plays you brought up, they were a lot of fun to watch. Like, Embiid tonight, he just really impressed me with his passing. He's like a better passer than what I thought he is. He has some great court vision with Embiid, and that just makes him more scary. And I hope Embiid, you know, stays healthy going forward. It's just been a lot of fun to see him back out there and playing at a great high level again. And somehow Philadelphia makes it past the first round. Hopefully, he could keep looking like this against the Knicks in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, I know I keep throwing it out here. That's probably getting old for your listeners, but it is just crazy here that we're in this situation. Boston is 1 loss away from being out in the first round. They were just up 3-1 against this Sixers team. They had 2 30-point wins earlier in the series here, and now with 2 offensive duds where they can't hit a 3, and they give up these highlight plays to Philadelphia. Now they're the team that's kind of on the ropes here. Like Philadelphia going into this game 7, which is going to be Saturday night in Boston. Philly is the team playing with house money. Like at this one, they have nothing to lose here. This is probably the best position they could have asked for in this scenario here, because normally when you're the Philadelphia 76ers in the Joel Embiid and tenure here, it's that, oh, he hasn't made it past the second round, and there's been injuries and all that stuff. But now, after they're down 3-1 against a Boston team that everyone is expecting to be the favorite in the East, everyone is expecting that team to be the team to get to the NBA Finals in this Eastern Conference because of the championship pedigree, because they have Tatum and Brown that were playing at unbelievable levels, because the Sixers have now won these last 2 games. All the pressure is now on Boston. I mean, if the Celtics go out in the first round now after the season that they've put together, being the 2 seed, I mean, that would be a major disappointment, maybe a bigger disappointment than Denver losing in the first round. So this is definitely taken an incredible turn here. And Ben, I mean, what do you think has to change for Boston? I mean, what do you think? Is it just as simple as we've talked about before, that they need their 3-point shots to go down at a high level for them to even have a chance?
Well, yeah, I think they would have had a better chance of this game. More of their 3-point shots were falling in, but they're not easy shots still. Easy for them, who can be really good at knocking them down at times. But I would have liked more aggressiveness of driving to the basket. I get shooting threes is sort of like your sort of like your big thing there, and I know making threes could be big, to worth even more if you knock down a lot. But Philadelphia was just guarding them pretty well out there. They seem to be coming out there to close out Boston good, and I would have liked just more drives to the basket, more trying to draw fouls. I didn't think they did enough of that, and I think Jaylen Brown and Tatum, they're big athletic wings. I think they could be capable if they were willing to step up and try to just get in there and draw some fouls, to be aggressive, to try to keep you know Philadelphia, I guess more off balance maybe with their defense, and see if they could put them in foul trouble. Like, they could have put Embiid, in a bit more foul trouble. That maybe could have helped them out of making it close. But yeah, I can't believe Boston's going to a game 7 against Philadelphia. I somehow thought this was going to be a sweep, but I think Embiid came back earlier than I thought. Like, I thought it was going to be from back then. So that I would say that did have to help Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I'd say even with Embiid coming back here, I thought this was for sure ending in 6. Like, I did not think that this Boston team would have to fight through a game 7 to get past the first round, but here we are. Just the beauty of the playoffs with these 3 incredible results here after Philadelphia forces the first game 7 of this first round. That game will be on Saturday night at 7:30 back in Boston, which will be the only game of Saturday night. So be tuned for that. We'll, I'm sure, preview it more tomorrow night when we're previewing that game. But as far as previewing the games that are here tonight, we have the other 3 game 6s with 3 more chances for some teams to advance to the second round, starting off at 7 p.m. with Orlando, the 8th seed, once again trying to knock off the top dog in the East, the Detroit Pistons. But Orlando now gets to be back at home, 7 o'clock on Prime. As I mentioned on the last podcast episode, or the last recap when recapping the game, this is going to be the first time that Orlando has hosted a closeout game in their current arena, which they've been in for like 15 years. So that crowd is certainly going to be jumping. And Ben, you and I have talked ad nauseum about how good Orlando is at home. So what does Detroit need to do here after they had that big game 5 win? What do they need to do here to get the series back to Detroit for a game 7?
Well, I think they need to try to get off to a strong start and get a big lead. Like, I think they could get a strong start, somehow get off the big lead. It could make it hard for Orlando to start trying to come back as long as Detroit continues to play with great defensive intensity and, is forcing turnovers and stuff on Orlando. And, Cade, as I mentioned this before, has been phenomenal in this series, but you gotta hope other guys other than him come through and have some good offensive performances to complement him if you want a good chance at taking this game. Like, hopefully, once again, just hopefully Jalen Durham somehow has a nice offensive game here in playoffs. Hopefully,
Look,
just
can he please get over 12 points in a game? I'm so tired of seeing 12
yeah,
12 points. This guy averaged 19 and 10 in the regular season. And this is not like, again, he's going up against Wendell Carter Jr. This should not be a matchup where he's being held to 8, 11, 12 points routinely. He needs to play a lot better again.
right, and hope just really, anyone outside of Cade can produce. Like, Tobias here, he had 20 points, was good for them and helping them in the last game. Just maybe him again, or maybe Duncan Robinson really gets going for free. That helps them. They need other good scoring performances from other guys to just knock down shots and try to silence the Orlando crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I think again the 3-point shooting is something we always note. Obviously, Jalen Duren has to play better. For reference, with the 3-point shooting, I just did the number. Detroit in 5 games has made they've made 43 3-pointers in the series. 28 of them have been from Cade Cunningham or Duncan Robinson. So 65% of their threes this series have come from 2 players. They need someone else to have a big game. Like, Cade has made 15, Duncan has made 13. The third best 3-point shooter for Detroit in this series, Tobias Harris and Javonte Green, who have each made 4 in a 5-game series. They've each made less than a 3 a game, and those are the third best 3-point like shooters in the series. So they absolutely need to have a wild card game from one of those guys. And for Orlando, again, I think the if Paolo Banchero can give you another 45-point game, I don't think you're going to lose that game at home. The duel that Paolo and Cade had in Game 5 was unbelievable. But I think once again, if Orlando can get positive performances from throughout their starting lineup, mainly looking at Suggs, Bane, Wendell Carter, Anthony Black off the bench if Jamal Cain starts there again. Like, if they can get big performances from 2 or 3 of those guys to supplement Paolo Banchero, Orlando should be in great shape here, because Detroit, again, like we've talked about, they have not proven to have the consistency offensively, especially on the road, to match that when it comes down to it. So, it's going to, I think, of course, you need your stars to play well in these big games, but, you're going to need your role players. I think that's the difference in this game. It's going to be which team can get more of their supporting cast to show up in this game.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good point. I can see it coming down to that. And just could also come down to, whichever team makes the less bad mistakes. Some of these games in this series have just come down to that.
Yeah, and one of those things includes the offensive rebounds and the free throw game, which Orlando lost both of in Game 5. So they need to clean that up as well, because this, it's another one of those scenarios here where Detroit, they were just down 3-1, but they win Game 5. If they can win this game in Orlando, I mean, momentum shifts back their way going into a potential Game 7 in Detroit. So they need to take care of business. Orlando does to get past the first round for the first time in 16 years. Again, that game 7 p.m. on Prime Video. 7:30 on Prime is Game 6 of the Cavs and the Raptors with Cleveland after that rocky, at times, but clutch Game 5 victory. They have the 3-2 series lead, and they're looking to get past the first round in this game. Series shifting back to Toronto here. Ben, we kind of talked about it, after the Game 5 win yesterday about how, again, it was very shaky for a lot of the game here. There were those spurts, but it wasn't really till the fourth quarter where we saw the steady performance on both ends of the floor here. So I think the first key to the Cavs trying to win this series on the road here is to come out with that sense of urgency early in the game, right from the beginning, which they have not done the last 3 games.
Yeah, that's true with the Cavs, and especially on the road where it's gonna be a tough road environment again in Toronto. They have to come out, ready to play hard, physical from the jump, and big key for the Cavs, and things started working better for the Cavs when they did this was feeding the ball to the bigs, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. I really want it to be a focal point throughout the game that we're getting those guys involved and they're being aggressive down low in the painted area. Just to me, like when that happens, if things start to click better for the Cavs, and they're gonna really need that, especially in Toronto. And Toronto could, really be turning up the pressure with their defense. Makes it hard to knock down open shots, but the bigs are physical, trying to be aggressive. It could be a better way to just generate some offense and get some more points on the board to give yourself a better chance.
Yeah, I'd agree. Play through the bigs early. Hope that Donovan Mitchell can have a big game here. He was great in the first 2 games of this series, tailed off in games 3 and 4, was okay in game 5, but this is a pretty long stretch here for him not to have a big game here in the playoffs. So you'd expect him to have a big one here. Maybe Harden not to have as great of a game, as he had in game 5, but need the bigs to step up in this game. You need, that wild card game from one of your other guys, whether it is, if it's Dennis Schroeder like it was in game 5, Max Strus like it was in game 1, Dean Wade defensively like it has for really most of the series, to stop a Toronto team that has, I think, outplayed them the last 3 games. But injuries have definitely overtaken their team. Scotty Barnes is not on the injury report. He played through that heel injury for the rest of game 5, although he didn't make a field goal in the entire second half. Brandon Ingram is a game time decision after the right heel inflammation in game 5. And of course, still no Emmanuel Quickley. So the Raptors still playing with injuries. They're playing with house money in this series. Going back home where they've won the last 2 games, they're going to be feeling pretty good about themselves. So should be an interesting game here between the Cavs and the Raptors. That one against 7:30 p.m. on Prime Video. And then finally at 9:30, Game 6 between the Lakers and the Rockets. It's back in Houston. And oh boy, the Lakers playing with their food here have certainly made this an interesting series, Ben. Here with me at school here, we've got my friend Brett, who's a Lakers fan, also known
Yeah.
as BA, who's a big Lakers fan that's been a little worried after these last 2 games, and he's been asking, what is going on here? What is going on in the series? And the 2 things that I've told him the most are, one, and I've said it before, the guys are playing back to their normal standard on both sides. And then second, the Lakers are just playing with their food. They've eaten the mac and cheese, they've eaten the chicken tenders, and they've almost finished up that cup of soda. But they are not finishing off their veggies, Ben. They got to finish up their greens to get past the first round. So what do you think is
Yeah.
going to be the biggest key to that here in Game 6 as it's back in Houston?
Well, hope Austin Reed's starting to feel even more comfortable and he just goes off for a big game, maybe make it hard for Houston to keep up as long as LA's playing good defense once again, which LA, I give them credit. They played pretty good defense throughout the series, and JJ Redick's done a good job of not allowing, Houston to have really high shooting percentages and to allow Houston to make some tough looks, but Houston has, played some smarter ball recent games, limiting turnovers and silly mistakes, which helped them get a few wins now and gain some more momentum. But I Reeves goes off, or if LeBron could go off somehow and make tough shots and take the lead, that would be huge for the Lakers. That's my biggest key for them. If that happens, I think it could get hard for Houston to catch up with their offense, just as long as the defense is good for the Lakers. But I'm confident it could be good since they have been pretty good throughout the series on that end.
Yeah, Ben, question I have for you heading into this game. Of course, with Austin Reeves coming back here after the injury, JJ Redick brought him off the bench in game 5 with Luke Kennard and Marcus Smart playing so well. But again, both of those guys didn't play as well in this game. Luke Kennard, 0 in this game. The Rockets have put a Men Thompson on him, and that's kind of taken him out of the series these last couple games. Would you expect JJ Redick to make the change and put Reeves back in the starting lineup for this game 6?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna guess he will get put in the starting lineup just because JG will want him for the offensive punch. But I mean, you never know. Maybe not. Just throughout the series is gone. He keeps that lineup going, and I maybe sort of wants to ease Austin Reeves, but I'm sure he's quite confident in Austin Reeves. Hopefully, doing fine out there. So that's why I'm thinking he could start him still, and that's what I will guess. Just knowing the personality of JJ Redick, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think he'll put Reeves in for Kennard. It's not like you could say they brought Reeves off the bench to give him a minutes restriction. I mean, he still played nearly 34 minutes. I mean, he'll be in the he'll I think he'll be in the starting lineup. And I think this is such an important game here for the Lakers, Ben. I mean, I think Jabari Smith said this after, one of the recent games. I think it may have been after their game 4 victory, where he said, we're the better team. We're the better team. And I would say, we all know what we predicted this series to be. I think all of us would agree that Houston has the better team on the floor here if Luka Doncic is not available for the Lakers, which he most likely won't be for this series. So the Lakers, even though they're leading this series, like they can't keep continuing to play with their food here in this first round, especially when you have Oklahoma City that's just waiting. They're just waiting for whoever gets done with this first round, to claw out here and then have to go face them off a week rest or whatever it is. So Lakers, I think they absolutely need to get this done as quick as possible. They can't have the mindset where, okay, if we lose this game, we have a game 7 at home. I mean, that's just not going to work, I don't think, in this situation here for them to have long-term success. Even if they do have the mindset and end up winning the series, it's not going to help them going forward. Um, you know, I I'm just really excited for this game. I think the Rockets atmosphere, I'm excited to see how it is now that they've got some confidence going into this game. Ben, what do you think's going to happen here with all 3 of these games? I guess we'll do the same thing that we did last night here. Again, 3 chances for teams to advance to the second round. How many of these series are ending tonight in a game 6?
Well, right now, here's what I'm guessing. Man, I mean, I really want our Cavs to win, but I just think somehow the Raptors are gonna win on their home court again. Just somehow get lifted by their home fans and win in a close game. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Cavs are aggressive and they do what I was saying with the bigs and they find a way to win a close one. You never know there, especially Mitchell maybe is feeling it, but yeah, I will say that one doesn't end. I I think Orlando's gonna beat the Pistons at their home court. I don't know. I'm just thinking
I'd agree.
sort of
I think so too.
the home courts that have been working. Like I I think Orlando will do really well there again and get another big Paolo game that helps them win. So that's one series, and a lot Lakers Rocks is the toughest one to figure it out here on the night. But oh, how right now I'll go Lakers just because I'm thinking Austin Reeves could be feeling more comfortable. And he has a big game, but that one could go either way. So I'll say two series are over, but maybe my mind will change in the morning. You'll see from me, Miles, especially with that
Yeah.
Lakers Rockets one.
Yeah, I think I'd agree on the first two. I think Orlando can finish this off tonight. You know, I wish I had more confidence in Cleveland to finish this off, but again, they just have not. They're not undeniable. They haven't shown enough for me to be like, yes, they're for sure going to do this. You know, even with the Raptors banged up and injured, Cavs have to prove it to us. I think. And then Lakers Rocket. This is a funny series because both on the podcast for the predictions and then off the record for our pick'em like group chat where we're picking every single game. I've been wrong about every game in that series besides game 3. I've been incorrect on every game. So I already know whatever I say on here, the opposite's going to happen. But I have a feeling, again, right now, as of almost 2 a.m. here on May 1st, I think the Rockets are going to do it and force a game 7. I don't know why. I feel pretty good about them in their home crowd here, pulling them through on a Friday night. There shouldn't be many excuses for Rockets fans being late to the game like they are most other times. I think that they're going to be ready here. And again, I think that atmosphere should be on a whole different level than it was in games 3 and 4, where they had no confidence going into those games. They should have a ton of confidence heading into this game.
Yep, the Rockets bowl the confidence advantage. I do agree there.
Yeah, but that is it for us here. Another just unreal night in the playoffs so far. I mean, maybe by the end of this, near the end of the playoffs, like we could do a ranking of like the top 5 craziest days or nights of the playoffs. This might be hard to top. I don't know if anything else is going to top this one, with New York closing out the Hawks by winning by 50. The Philadelphia 76ers forcing Boston to game 7, and then Denver, their season coming to end at the hands of a Timberwolves team without their 3 best cards. So it's just unbelievable night. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. But that is all for us here. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA playoff content. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the games here tonight, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.